It's a sweater! It's a sweater!
Hey everybody, Brent back with you for another exciting pre-summer installment of a T-206 addition to my Project Sweater Gang. That's right, I have picked up another beautiful T-206 of a, this time, storied legendary Hall of Famer adorned in a beautiful sweater. For those of you who don't know, I am having a bit of a side project where I am adding T-206 cards that have baseball players wearing sweaters. And this is my, I believe my 7th, maybe 8th pickup. And it is arguably of the 26 players that are captured on the tobacco cards in the T-206 collection that are wearing sweaters. This is probably the most expensive, or probably the most money I will spend on a card for this collection. This is not something I want to spend a lot of money on, but I want to have some good looking representation of cards. There are a couple that I knew going into that I would have to get a lower grade just because of the price, because of the player that they are. This is definitely one of them. In fact, I couldn't justify getting a 1 or a 2 just because they just didn't look good enough for me. And so I went the authentic route on this one, and I'm gonna turn the card around here in a moment, obviously, so you don't stare at this back. And it's going to be a storied Hall of Famer that most of you that know about, and one that is, in some ways, we bandy the term underrated often in the baseball world, in the sports world, but I believe this player is maybe overlooked or overshadowed. You know what? We're gonna run with overshadowed, kids, especially with his run and timeline with Tyrus Cobb, for one. That was they were interchangeably tied at the hip, so to speak, on a lot of levels during their playing careers. But I'm also going to shout out a channel because he posed a question recently that got me thinking about this card in particular and why I chose to go the authentic route. So without ado going any further, let me turn this bad boy around and show you who we're talking about. None other than Napoleon Nap Lajoie, or LaJoie for those of you who don't habla français. There he is, Nap Lajoie. This is his throwing pose, and this is the one that has him adorned, and this time a beautiful, sexy cardie. Shout out to my man Skaght Reindeer Studios. I know he has shown this card on a couple times, and I think he even mentioned me on one of his recent videos when he did show this card, that I would appreciate it. Skaght, I do appreciate this card so much that I went out and got my own copy of it. Just a fantastically gorgeous looking card. Besides the sweater, besides the stoic throwing pose, this is the sunset behind him. This is the light pastel hues. And it represents well. You can see, let me hold it up a little closer without getting too close. You can see his name. A lot of times it's the cuts, you miss the name when you sacrifice for an authentic, but it again presents well. So I'm over the moon for this. I could afford an authentic, and I thought this one looked better than most 1s and 2s. Doesn't have the creases across his face, doesn't have any paper loss. It's pretty dang well centered, which some of you would say, well, duh, because it's authentic evidence of trimming. Here's the quandary, or the question that I want to pose. And before I go any further, the channel I want to shout out is my friend Chris at CRT Sports Cards. And I've known Chris since the COVID days of 2020. When I say no, I met him online through Instagram, YouTube. He was big into Project 2020. Remember the days of Project 2020? Those were some crazy Wild West days. And he would make videos on all of those cars, and I just loved his production. And it started actually before that, now that I'm thinking of it. He was furloughed from his job and made kind of a video blog about his furlough process, and also incorporated his love and passion for baseball cards. He's a Seattle guy like myself, and I was furloughed as well. So we had a lot of connection as far as where we're from, Mariners fans, being furloughed, and yada, yada, yada. Anyways, fast forward, some of you, and here's a picture of me and Chris. We finally met up at a Mariners game last month. That was cool to finally, meet him in person, and got a chance to snap this photo. You may know him better as the T-206 polar bear tattoo guy. He has been floating around in some circles, the national. He kind of made his public appearance, and he's kind of known for his tattoo. So I can say I knew him before the tattoo. I know the real Chris. But anyways, he's just a super genuine guy. And he's doing a series of videos on his recently finished polar bear back run for the T-206 set. He's got every card that has a polar bear back in his collection, and he's going through card by card and kind of just presenting did you know kind of facts and cool stories about the set, with the polar bear back being at the forefront of the conversation. And he recently got he had a quandary where he had two of the same cards. I won't go into it. You should watch his video. He also is active on Instagram. I'll put a link to that as well, where he asked his audience, should he keep the authentic or the one? He had an authentic and a one of the same card, and the authentic presented better, but there is a stigma that comes with it being authentic. But the authentic for it was just because it wasn't trimmed or altered, right? So I told him I think you should go with the authentic because of just it looked better, and you're going to be staring at it for the rest of your life, and why not have that one? So then he posed another question with another card he has, a beautiful Cy Young that is authentic, that says altered. Now this is pretty much the same thing, authentic evidence of trimming. So some would say, yeah, I don't know, Brent. I don't know if I would want to get a card that says evidence of trimming on it, because that means people are trying to make it look better, so it grades better, or whatever. You know what I mean? I say on this instance, that's not the case, and I'll show you why. Because whoever cut this was not cutting it to make it look better. It's very jagged on some sides. I think this is more of somebody back in the 1910s, 20s, 30s, who knows, just wanted it to look a little better. There wasn't grading back then, obviously. There was no focus on centering. I just think that this was trimmed by somebody back in the day who just wanted to maybe cut off some staining and make it look better. Maybe he wanted it to fit better in an album. I don't know. But my guess is that this was not trimmed for the sake of grading. So in that sense, that kind of gave me, my point is, I think you need to make a case-by-case basis. Do I wish this said authentic and didn't say evidence of trimming? Sure, there's some stigma that comes with that. I get that. But in this instance, I think the evidence of trimming is solely based on somebody back in the day, maybe possibly 100 years ago or more, decided to give it a little cut to make it look better and fit in for whatever reason, the way that they kept this card. Again, that just makes me be amazed at some of these old pre-war cards. That I had a conversation with a gentleman at a card show last weekend, and we talked about these old cards because there wasn't too much vintage at this show. So the one seller that had some vintage, we got in a good conversation of just about how these cards have been through so much. Wars, depressions, just being moved around, and they still show up looking like this. So, there is evidence of trimming, sure. But part of that, at least in this instance, I think it kind of adds to the story, or makes you at least wonder what the story is. And I firmly believe the story isn't some dude 5 years ago wanted to trim this to hopefully get a better grade in an SGC slab so he could sell it for more money. I'm pretty dang sure that's not the story this card has. So I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this being authentic? This is obviously a Nap Lajoie card from 1909, so the price is going to be high. This is what I could afford, is what makes sense. It also just presented very well. So I would love to hear your thoughts. I know it's kind of the age-old dilemma of authentic versus a number grade, or does the grade even matter? At the end of the day, if I took this slab away and just looked at this card, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I mean, you can maybe hold it up to another T-206 card and see that maybe it's slightly smaller on one side. But at the end of the day, it's Nap Lajoie in a sweater throwing a baseball. And it's really old, and I love it. So this is the latest addition to my Project Sweater Gang T-206 project. Let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye.